Yeah, exactly.
All warmed up, and it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, no, we're already on camera. All
We're
right.
already on camera. Yeah, you're already on. So I'm probably going to stand a bit because I was sitting a lot in
Sounds
the car.
good. Do what you got to do.
Awesome. Dude, super pumped.
Yeah,
like,
me
this
too.
This is super awesome. And besides just selfishly not having gotten to see you for a long time, like, the whole point of even sitting down to chat about everything and catch up is just, it's purely selfish. It's like, oh, what's going on? How are we doing?
Absolutely.
To appease Paul Corwin, who loves the fact that I never do formal introductions.
Okay.
This is how good of a friend I am to Paul. Paul Corwin, here's your formal introduction.
Yeah.
Todd and Susan, why don't you give just as best of an intro as you can of who you guys are and why we're here today.
Go for it, Susan.
Hi. so fun to talk into this large microphone.
Right.
I assume you're going to be editing all this, right?
I will edit everything that is not consequential.
Okay.
Which is basically nothing.
So I have known Todd for a while. I don't know when we first met, but he and I used to work together. He was an assistant coach for me at a university, and so that was really fun on the D3 level. Great guy, kind of fun to work with, very enthusiastic, and I am enthusiastic too about this incredible sport of rowing.
Yeah. Which school were you guys at together?
Willamette University.
Willamette University. Yeah. Awesome. On the Willamette River.
Yes.
Yeah. Not really. It's funny. It's the Willamette University. It's not actually on the Willamette River, but
it actually is.
It's close. It's
down?
like it's maybe a quarter mile from the river. So.
At the most.
Yeah.
But at least it's there. And
so I've been coaching for a long time, since like 1983.
1983.
Really long time.
So that makes you 39.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Just like my wife.
39. And so I retired recently, and then Todd kind of dragged me out of retirement to work with him toward his goal of making a seat in the four for the Olympics in Tokyo.
Wow.
So it was quite an honor for me to be able to immediately say yes.
Right.
And let's do this.
And you've had experience coaching at the Olympic level before.
I have. I had the great opportunity to be a coach for the women's single sculler in 2004 in Athens. And
the single sculler, for people that aren't familiar, that's one person, one boat, 2 oars.
Yes.
And that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes.
No motor, just to be clear. No motor.
No motor.
No. No motor.
You're the motor.
Right. So the women's single sculler in Athens.
Yes.
Okay. That's pretty awesome.
It was an incredible experience. I have met many, many wonderful memories. It was a thrill of a lifetime, knowing, particularly what stands out was like the closing ceremonies when everybody was just gathered around in this huge stadium and the competition was over. And so for the first moment and for 5 minutes, people could relax.
Right.
And not train.
Right.
Because the next cycle didn't start till tomorrow.
Right, yeah. Hey, you get today off.
Yeah. So the joy was
Right.
amazing. And just the relief and the camaraderie of all these worldwide athletes. And it was just really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now, because your husband, right?
Yes.
Is
Tip Wood.
former Olympic rower. Are you former or is it retired?
You're never a former Olympic.
Never. Okay.
Susan,
Okay.
you schooled me on this.
Yeah, no, I know that there's a protocol here. I don't want to
former. You can say you're a former ex-national team rower, but you're
Okay.
always an Olympian.
Okay.
Yes.
Once an Olympian, always an Olympian.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So.
I like, see, this is why we have this. This is like an educational session. Every time you walk down the street, you see an Olympian, like, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am.
So Tip was on the 76, 80, and 84 teams.
Okay. 76, 80, and 84. And what events?
He was a spare actually for 76 and 84.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in 1980, he was in the men's quad.
Okay.
But it was boycotted
That was the
because
boycott.
of
Oh, right.
Jimmy Carter was
Yeah.
president.
Right.
And Afghanistan was
Yes.
getting us in trouble. So
The first time.
they ended up not being able to compete. And he was captain of the men's team that year.
Oh, okay.
They were supposed to be in like some superstar. At least from what I heard, is that boat was supposed to be like
Yes, it was a fast boat.
very likely to win a medal.
Which is a big deal as a U.S. rowing team because, I mean, it's still, even back then, was pretty much dominated by...
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah,
England
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
Europe and Australia.
European, like England and Germany and, those countries.
Yeah. So Olympia runs in your blood. You've got 2 decades of experience in the coaching seat, just even observation wise, and then stepping up as, in 04 and then hoping to go back here and with Tokyo 2020, even though it's technically 2021. I don't know why they don't just change the name, but whatever.
They
But-
haven't?
No, they keep calling it 2020. I keep thinking I'm like looking at like a recorded version of like whatever hockey game we're watching. Like,
Yeah.
is this game DVR'd? Like, what did I do? No, they keep calling it 2020. It's like, oh
I
gosh.
saw
Okay.
like yesterday.
I know, right? I think everybody wants to forget 2020. It's like, stop putting 2020 on things. Nobody wants to see 2020
know.
anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So you're going to be going back, hopefully, in the summer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Training, the Center for Paralegal Paralympic Rowing is in Boston with CRI
Okay.
Yeah.
and Community Rowing Incorporated.
Yeah, that's the
So
boathouse.
That's
Okay.
where the
That's
center of the training will be once things get going, which may be in April.
Maybe
Yeah,
in
that's
April
what
in Boston.
The selection camp is officially from June 1st to June 14th. So they'll name the 4 people that will row at Tokyo on June 14th.
Okay.
So obviously I want to get there, as soon as I reasonably can to adapt into,
Right.
There'll be people training there too. The coaches there's already like a group of probably like 4 or 5 people or, maybe more who are already there, like live in Boston.
Right.
So,
So that's a great segue into who are you, Todd?
all right. Hi,
welcome,
I'm
Paul.
Todd Vogt. I've got a rowing problem. Just kidding.
Thank
Let's
you
see.
for sharing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for sharing, Todd.
Let's see. I started rowing as a walk-on in college back in the day in 1992. Rowed all throughout college. I was team captain in college. Rowed at a moderately decent high level after college for a little bit, and then transitioned into being like just a master's rower. So an adult with a job who still competed.
Has a rowing problem.
Yeah, it was a rowing problem, exactly. And that was my life for a while. I started coaching in 2005, like with juniors and masters, and then for a couple years with Susan at Willamette University, and then some other place I coached at University of Wisconsin for a couple years.
The Badgers.
Yeah, exactly, and which was great. That was a fun experience. And then, yeah, we moved back to Portland, my wife and I, in 2017, and that's when sort of everything changed a little bit. Is in the fall of 2017 when I remember that when things started to change, or this new phase started, was I was preparing for this big race in Boston called Head of the Charles. I was just doing my normal sort of training program for the team the group that I was with, and I don't know, I just started feeling physically different. Like my rowing stroke felt all funky, and I remember feeling like really tired during workouts. At the time, I just thought I was getting old. I thought I don't
Right.
know, needed to lift more weights or
I've
something.
crested the hill. It's all downhill from here.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought I don't know, I was 42 at the time, so I was thinking, okay, I'm getting old. That's it. So, but that feeling like persisted all throughout that winter of like 17, 18. Then I developed a tremor and like in my left hand, and so in about spring of 2018, I started seeing all these doctors. Saw like naturopaths and neurologists, and did a bunch of diagnostic testing, and eventually was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's in like the beginning of August in 2018. Like I was 43 at the time, a couple months before my 44th birthday. So at first I thought I was done rowing. That was like the first thing that happened after diagnosis. I didn't think I was going to be able to be like a competitive athlete anymore. I thought that whole thing was gone. But then I started getting on the rowing machine a little more. Like that was when we were working out together at Forge.
Yep.
And I officially like got designated to be like I reached out to U.S. Rowing, the governing body of rowing in the U.S., and just to see like what it takes to get designated as like a Paralympic athlete, just to do like local competitions or things like that.
Sure.
So I got designated as being, disabled enough to be a Paralympic athlete, and then I reached out to the coaches again, the Paralympic coaches, and asked them, what does it take to get onto like the Paralympic national team? So they made me do a bunch of these workouts that we did together, like 8x500 meters and the, test pieces and things like that. So then with the erg results, the results on the rowing machine, they invited me to the training camp in the summer of 2019. And I eventually raced early in the summer. I raced in Poland at the, in a World Cup race. There's the World Cup races are like tune-up races there's typically 3 of them. They're somewhere, they're spread across Europe, and they're sort of tune-up races for the World Championships for teams. So I raced in the mixed gendered Paralympic 4 in Poznan, Poland at the World Cup number 2, which we won, which was amazing. That was
2019, right?
That was 2019,
so,
yeah.
2
summers ago.
Yeah,
or
2
almost
summers ago,
summers
year and a half, or 75 COVID years.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Eventually, I ended up in a 2-person boat, me and another guy, and we raced that boat at the World Championships in Linz, Austria, finishing in 6th place, which was awesome. I mean, we got our butts kicked, but
Right.
it was still an awesome experience to go there, to like race for the country and like see all these people who, you know, are that are like idols of mine, you know,
Yeah.
alongside him. So yeah, then came back to Portland after that and started training pretty seriously, you know, to try to go and make the Paralympic boat that goes to Tokyo. And that's when I decided I need to like have, you know, I was doing a lot of work already, but I decided I need to have somebody who could like oversee my training,
Right.
who could help me technically, who could
Right.
guide my training, things like that. And so that's when I reached out to Susan.
Pick me.
Pick me.
Exactly.
Over here.
Yeah.
You know, interesting too, because I mean, you're a fantastic coach. You
Yeah.
have an
Thanks.
incredible work. Well, I'm not just blowing sunshine up your ass. You're a phenomenal coach.
Okay.
And you've got an insane work ethic, and you know how to program. But
Yeah.
it is just, it's one less. If you've got somebody that you trust to be able
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
steer the ship,
Yeah.
I promise there'll only be like 300 boat references this one. But it just
Don't
takes a
worry.
lot of that. Like, hey, I don't have to think about this today. I can just go do the work.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's got to be nice.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's nice for somebody to have like a big picture, somebody who can just take the big picture perspective, and then all I got to do is basically just like show up and do the work, you know. So
Well, and Susan knows you well enough to know it's like, hey, homie, turn the volume down, calm down a little bit, slow down.
Yeah.
What was it's like? Hey, all
yeah.
I want is 5 minutes. 10K later.
yeah, well, yeah,
That
I'm
never
good at
happens.
doing the work, and sometimes it's nice to, you know, it's easy to do things that are comfortable too, always,
Right.
you know. So it's nice to have somebody tell you to, A, what you're doing, you know, like give you technical pointers, and then B, to sort of, you know, make you do workouts you wouldn't otherwise do, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah, like doing cleans because they're not quite your favorite, but
yeah, absolutely,
not doing
in the
so
weight room,
much
exactly.
squats.
Or, you know, rather than just doing, you know, an hour of cruising along in the single, to do drills or to do a really hard workout that you might not otherwise want to do. So yeah.
Well, and rowing is known for hard workouts. Like that's
Yeah.
a no-brainer. Is that you guys? It's hard to translate to people who haven't stepped into not even on the water, which
Yeah.
is a whole other animal, but just on the concept to itself. And you know, you get some people that think they're fit, and you can absolutely humble them in
Yeah.
less than, I'm going to say 8 minutes, because even the good people jumping on for a 2K to begin with are
Right off the
struggle
bat,
busting.
yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go super hard at the front. You do you.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually they say like, you know, how much could that hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, how much can I, 3 weeks of not wanting to do anything
Yeah, exactly.
afterwards.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Right.
No, but I mean the work capacity and the work ethic side is I mean, I don't, you know, it's right up there. Rowing is such a I guess you'd say an alternative sport in the United States, because it's not one of the
Sure,
power three,
absolutely.
basketball, baseball,
For
football.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the athletes that row in this country, while we're not the top of the heap every year, they're some of the most fit people walking the planet. I mean, it's
Yeah.
insane how difficult rowing is,
And they're also the most dedicated and the most
Yeah.
dependable.
especially from Oregon, because all it does
Yeah.
is rain on you all the time. So now you're getting
Yeah.
in the water, getting wet, and getting rained on.
Yeah.
It
I
never
mean,
rains.
not to make other endurance sports, but yeah, rowing.
Rowing's better than all the other endurance sports. I'll just
Yeah,
say.
well, it's got a lot. It's got some cool feet. I think the thing it's got things that are similar and different to other endurance sports, like say cycling, swimming, and track and like doing track. In that, you know, you do have to put a lot of time, and there's very little. Like, you're never going to be a professional athlete, and nobody comes to regattas too. So it's all like you have to be
Right.
intrinsically motivated, highly
Right.
intrinsically motivated. You have to be willing to, you know, work hard, and a lot of times in bad conditions, weather conditions. And you have to be able to push yourself pretty hard and endure like a level of pain. But I think the things that separate rowing in some regard is that the team, especially like in a team boat, is you have like a team aspect too,
Yeah.
which is different than say swimming or cycling or, you know, cross country. So
Right, because a team. So you got for folks that don't, you got singles, doubles,
Yeah.
quads, and eights.
Yeah.
Right, and you're rowing doubles.
Yeah,
or you rowed doubles.
I rode into what's called a pair. There's pair too. I rode in a pair, which
Okay.
just to distinguish from a double is two people, 2 oars. A pair is 2 people, 1 oar.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 oar each, exactly.
Okay. So.
And so there's 4s and quads too. 4s is 4 people, 1 oar, and a quad is 4 people with 2 oar.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And-
there's all these sort of
and
different
eights-
disciplines. In an 8, each person just has 1 oar.
Okay. So
So-
eights have 8 paddles.
Exactly. 8 paddles. Exactly. That's awesome. That's perfect.
But you know, they're not paddles, they're oars.
Oars. Yeah. No, I
Exactly.
know that's a big one.
That's just
That's
funny.
Well,
I know,
paddles go
I'm
straight
totally
from
giving you
your,
crap on
I
that.
know.
your hand to the water, and oars go hand to the oar line.
Ah, there
in
you
the
go.
water.
Yeah, that's true. That's the
That's
differentiation.
So you see how to unpack this a little bit. 2017, coming out here, everything's gravy.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, sharp left turn on the road of life. And
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I've got Parkinson's.
Yeah.
What was? I mean, is it? I know what my take would be with how I think I'd probably respond, and you responded a hell of a lot better than what I did. I probably would have.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you compartmentalize it and then take it on? Like, 'cause, I mean, you've been nothing short of a blueprint for how to handle something. Not to like sugarcoat it, but it's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
And a lot of people probably would have quit already, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of went the opposite route, which is more how I would be like, cool, what can I use this to apply towards being something constructive and productive, as opposed to just sitting down and giving it, oh, okay, I'm done.
That's
how
a
did
good
you get started on that?
Well, like I said, one of the first things I thought was like, okay, I'm never going to be able to be a competitive rower. But then, I guess being in the like rowing world, like so heavily immersed in it, I knew that I actually like one part of my brain knew that this whole like Paralympic realm existed, but I didn't know like how one got into it. So most of me was like, okay, I'm done rowing. Maybe I'll do some cycling just to stay fit and some working out. But then even initially, I remember thinking like, maybe if I can keep this together, maybe I could get involved with the Paralympic like rowing, whatever, in that sort of avenue. So I guess that was the one good thing about being coaching and rowing. Like I knew the rowing world pretty well.
Right.
But at first it was tough because like the first couple months. Actually, one of the first people I told, I think, was you. You and Preston that one day at the gym. Actually, that was like that was really close to after when I got diagnosed. That was maybe like a week after I got diagnosed. So, So at first when I started like trying to like work out, it just felt terrible. I could like barely ride. It was like hard to ride a bike.
Right.
And it was like terrible on the rowing machine. So at first it was like a little depressing, but then I don't know what happened that winter. Like what triggered it? I guess like. When I reached out to the coaches at the U.S. rowing coaches, and they sort of explained the process, and then it seemed like once I sort of understood the process, it seemed maybe like it could be possible if I get my stuff together.
Yeah.
So, but it was depressing at first, like seeing my times on the rowing machine, like having a frame of reference where I should be or where I had been. So, yeah. I don't know. That was sort of I guess that was sort of the process. So
I remember seeing you one time at the boathouse, and you felt like, well, I guess I have to sell my single. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't need to sell your single. You should. You should totally embrace it.
You should buy a more expensive, faster single and let's go faster.
Yeah, I remember at first. Okay, so that's funny. I actually think, Susan, you bring me something I mentioned to my wife actually recently. Is at first, no, what's the matter?
It's okay, honey buns.
So I remember
studio audience.
Like there's like a small, a reasonably decent, like a group, small but not humongous group of guys that row out of here pretty consistently in their own boats, And a lot of times on Saturday mornings we would row as a group. There'd be, 5 or 6 or 7 of us depending on who's there, and we would just row and do a workout, which is really fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going for a bike ride with your friends or going for a run with friends. So. But I remember at first, like right after I got diagnosed, my balance felt all weird. I was getting crushed by everybody in the group, even like the guys that I would beat really easily. I was just like barely keeping up with them. So at first it was like really discouraging being in the single, right after I got diagnosed, because everything felt terrible.
Right.
I like felt like I could barely balance the boat, but
I remember that. I remember that you could not balance a boat to save your life.
Yeah. So that was where it started, I think. So that was a little disheartening at first, like being so far behind guys that I used to be able to like keep up with or beat pretty easily.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I know, like when we were working out, the toughest thing initially, just even on the Concept 2 rower, was getting your stroke rate figured out again. Just because the control of the handle, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I know that how did you...
Getting the rate,
How did you guys? I mean, because between the two, because I mean, obviously as a coach, stroke rate's a huge deal. Like it's super important to be as optimum as possible for your frame. And I know, getting deep down that rabbit hole, there's the high stroke rate, low stroke rate theories, all that kind of stuff. But how do you start dissecting that when you've got a neurological condition that's an impediment that you still don't really know what the code is going to be for to figure? Like how do you work that? How do you work that problem?
Well, as a coach, I kind of look at, the due date. When are we peaking?
Right.
And we kind of track back and figure out what do we do today so that we're ready then. And so you kind of chip away at different aspects of it. But the challenges that he has, everybody has challenges.
Right.
His are just now different for Todd. and they were unique for me too to also work with. So just doing a lot of skills. Doing a
so
lot of skills on the
like
water.
taking
and
it
on
back
the
to
rowing machine.
basics.
Yeah, taking
Yeah.
it back to basics, breaking down the stroke again,
Okay.
almost in a way relearning it so that you could apply it to how your body is responding
Yeah.
and listening now.
That makes a lot of sense because it's like it's the same motor centers as riding a bicycle, right?
Yeah, sure.
And when you learn to
Yeah.
ride a bike, you don't forget. But I
Yeah.
can imagine how difficult it would be to unlearn to ride a bike
Yeah.
to then go relearn it again. Because I'm sure that you, not being stubborn at all,
Yeah.
have certain things in your head of like, no, it needs to be this way because this is how I do it.
Yeah, for sure.
That had to be tough.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like a golf swing a lot of times, which is fairly technical. I mean, I'm terrible at golf. Don't get it. I played golf like 10 times, but the rowing stroke is like a golf swing in that there's like all these fine motions that you have to like spend years honing,
Right.
like refining. So, yeah, we cracked the code this fall, I think, on stroke rate,
Yes.
like with the 6K. So I had to do a bunch of 6,000 meter time trials on the rowing machine
Right.
for the Paralympic coaches. So
Right.
that's like when I think I figured out how to row at high rates.
How do you remember learning that?
I mean, we just did like a bunch of erg workouts that were where you just rode at rates that were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so just push the envelope progressively.
High
So
rate for you is 36 and above.
36 would be really high. I think for this next 2,000 meter piece, like I think ideally, which we have coming up, probably like I'd love to do that. I think we should try to do, or I should try to do it like 34. What'd you say? 36 was that?
Yeah, 34 would be good.
Yeah, 34 would be good. I mean, I think that's maybe I'm not even being aggressive enough because it seems like I was able to do the last one you did like 33 or so.
Well, I think some of it too is you learning that you are capable of more than you think.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big part of this too. Yeah, that's I think I've said this many times, but like my perception of fatigue is different. So a lot of these workouts are just more about pushing what I'm feel like I'm capable of.
Right.
So
And are you tracking heart rate the whole time?
yeah, absolutely.
And have you
Yeah.
seen a difference in positive, negative, or just changes to your heart rate response based on the stroke rate increases?
I mean, I know sort of where I go. I know where I go into various zones, whether it's like aerobic or anaerobic. So I
Right.
think the only real thing that's changed is the pace at which I go into these zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has
That's a
that
good
changed
thing.
a lot? Has that changed a lot?
I think it has. Like, I think we shifted the curve to the right. For example, like on my steady state workouts, it seems like I can hold like 2 minutes or faster with staying aerobic. Before it was like 210 to 205 was sort of my aerobic
I know
zone.
that you're working so hard and that you're in better shape.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
So we're seeing that result. But I guess my question was, when you first started kind of a year plus ago, when you really
Yeah.
started pushing it,
Yeah.
were you noticing that your heart was behaving differently with your rates?
I don't know, not necessarily. I think I was just slower.
No, my heart's not the problem.
Yeah, universally. So
Well, because I know, I mean, especially with various workouts we've done, kids we've
Yeah.
coached, that at least for me, that would be a hard mental challenge on my, because I don't particularly enjoy the higher rate either, because I look at it as like that's more reps.
Yeah.
I'd rather conserve reps and save
Yeah.
save them for the best. So it's like if I can do less, it's better. I'm not going to die as quickly and all that kind of. That's a tough headspace to be in. To all of a sudden be
Yeah.
like, cool, now I got to go 32 and above. Like what? That's because beforehand. I mean, you can sit there and cruise at 24s, 25s all day long.
yeah. Well, one thing especially relevant watching you row, like, I mean, you're stronger than I am. Just like whatever explosiveness and everything. So I think one thing I figured out is based off the 6,000 meter test, like my anaerobic threshold and my overall endurance is pretty good.
Right.
So I have that sort of that's I think one of my strengths is to be able to, rather than just absolutely crush it. You
Right.
know? So I think I have to use the aerobic capacity I have to spin the wheel a little more.
Yeah.
So
Because
as opposed to say like keeping it at like 28 strokes a minute,
Right.
and just trying to absolutely crush it per stroke, I don't think I have the physical capability to do that. But I can spin it at 34 at a little lower drag to get the same speed needed.
Because now, like when you were rowing in college and after,
Yeah.
we'll call it, I don't know, PP, pre Parkinson's,
sure.
your body weight in the boat, you were 210.
I've kind of hovered around this. Actually, I used to probably be. I think I'm the biggest I've been in a long, probably ever. Like I'm like 205 right now.
Okay.
The most I ever got up to is maybe like 208, 209.
Okay.
I've never really been above 210.
So the size is about the thing. Because I think about that,
Yeah.
with regards to rowing, and our buddy Peter, who's just crushing.
Oh yeah, Peter. Yeah, Peter Thorson.
You know
Yeah,
Peter?
I coach
yeah.
Peter too.
He's
Okay.
come out here and worked out with me a couple times. Dude,
So-
that dude's a monster. He's
Dude,
big. Yeah.
That was such a. It was a great idea, but it's also like I feel bad. Like I have to apologize to his wife and everything because it's like he never really did 2Ks or anything like that before,
Yeah.
and then it was like, hey, let's go row, and it's like, oh, I can put this on the boat.
Oh,
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Peter's an offshore fisherman.
Yeah.
He's been fishing Alaska for 20 plus years. The dude's a flipping monster.
Well,
Oh,
when I was working with him, it's like I was asking him, okay, so what do you do for your aerobic capacity? He says, oh, I fish for like 20 hours straight,
Yeah.
and then I
Yeah.
get on
Yeah.
the erg.
Yeah.
I'm going, okay,
Yeah.
check.
It's interesting
Okay.
talking to Peter because his he comes at the physiology from a different perspective of most, like I would say, traditional rowers come at. Like I think I more fall into the line of what more traditional rowers, and maybe just works for me in that
Yeah.
I do like a lot of volume, relatively low intensity, meaning between the biking, the rowing on the water, the
Right.
erg work, and things like that, and then just like some high intensity work, a small amount of high intensity work, in say a course of a week.
Yeah.
And Peter looks like everything he does seems like it's hard.
Super high
So,
intensity, and
yeah.
he's walking around at a super jacked like 240.
He's
like
a big dude. Exactly.
He's a big dude, and so he can put power down pretty much at the drop of a hat.
Yeah,
and it's,
for sure.
It's interesting because that's my kind of mental wheelhouse of like, right, low rate, use your strength,
Yeah,
use
for
your
sure.
thing, and it's like and knowing you've gone to the other end of the spectrum of okay, we're going to tick that rate up a little bit, crack that wheel
Yeah.
a little bit. Getting real technical.
Yeah.
With the higher rates, are you pulling it a lower? Like, where's your drag factor? What are you sitting at for resistance on that?
I was at like 125 for the last
Okay.
one, so I was thinking of trying to slowly edge up the drag factor to maybe 130 for this
Yeah.
next 2,000 meter. Because if I can say go at 33, 34 or even higher stroke rate and then have a touch of high drag
yeah.
factor, that I think that might be the sweet spot where I can go 620 for a 2K.
Jeez.
So
And because you just set the 6K world record, right? Mm-hmm. Which was
3 times in a row.
I broke my own. I kicked that other guy's butt, man. That other dude.
that dude that was there before. Yeah, he ain't got nothing.
Yeah.
This is Todd 3.0.
Yeah, I actually broke 3 records this fall: the 5K, the 6K, and the 10K.
Okay.
But the records are a little funny in that. I mean, it's still cool to say you hold a world record, but it's in the Paralympic category, men age 40 to 49. So I don't know how many people in the world fall in that category.
More than you. So,
Yeah. There might be 10 people in the world who fall in that category.
But
you know,
even
so-
with that, what was
Yeah.
your 6K time? I know these
20
answers,
minutes
but-
and 41 seconds.
Right, your 6K time in that category
Yeah.
was faster than 90. I looked at this before I came in and I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
96 or 97% of the general populace.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually one thing I
5K
was proud about.
times.
Yeah. So,
Like you beat them in a 6K.
Yeah.
90 some odd 7% of everybody that plays this game. It's 5K.
Good
Yeah.
work, Todd. Good
Yeah,
work.
seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you to
that
give
was
yourself
hard.
some
That
credit.
one
but-
was crazy hard too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that one was like I felt bad for like 6 hours afterwards.
Oh, just 6 hours.
Like 6 hours, I was like nauseous still
Well,
after
that's
like
2K
6 hours.
for time.
Yeah,
I didn't
so-
want to work out for like 3 weeks.
You broke some tremendous barriers
Yeah.
though with that. You really learned how to push through a pain barrier that
Yeah.
you seem to have not reached yet. So that was
Yeah.
really kind of cool
So
to see.
pain, lactic threshold pain, like quads burning, lungs burning. And what
Yeah.
was hurting? Or what wasn't hurting?
I
might be
mean,
a short
yeah, it's
list.
hard to say.
My
Like,
hair.
Yeah.
I mean, this might be too technical in the weeds, but I was
No,
trying
no,
to like
no,
use
go
my
for it.
like I was trying to row well such that I wasn't just blasting my legs apart.
Okay.
So I remember like the first 1,000 meters wasn't so bad. At about 2,000 meters in, it was starting to hurt, but I'm trying to use like my body weight effectively to keep my legs like from just blowing out my
Right.
legs. 3K to go, it was kind of hurting pretty, it was like hurting pretty bad. I don't know, it all hurt pretty bad. But at 2K to go,
It's
let's
not
see, there's
getting better.
some of the things that happened. At 3K to go, I remember, at that point you're like, okay, I can do this. I've done this in practice. I have like all these mental strategies too,
And then
you
hit 2,900 and you're like, I can't do this.
Yeah, actually, the only part where I thought I wasn't sure if I was going to finish was about 1,000 meters to go. The last 1,000 meters I went pretty quick, but when the 1,000 meters to go is like, I don't know if I'm going to finish this. All right, just put my head down, start counting. 1,000 meters goes 100 strokes, so I just started taking like 10 strokes at a time.
Yeah, I just count them down.
Then 500 meters to go is like, okay, 500 meters. I know I can do this, but at some point I was like, I think I have 50 strokes left in me still.
Yeah.
But yeah. The other thing I do try to keep a little perspective about it too is that, okay, it's great that I broke this world record for my age group, but ultimately, like, I need to be faster enough to get into the boat for Tokyo,
Right.
Regardless.
So because not everybody tests or publishes their stuff. I mean, because you know there's faster guys out there that aren't playing this game. I mean, there's we know plenty of guys that have hit 2K numbers that would be otherworldly, but they just don't do the online game. They don't dig into the logbooks and everything. Comparatively speaking, though, just for people to have kind of anybody that's got a rowing concept, I mean, that 6K was stinking fast.
Yeah, that was.
What does that translate to in the Olympic boat? What is? I mean, where does that ballpark, just for frame of reference?
Okay, we're just talking the Paralympics, or you want to talk the senior regular Olympics too? Okay, the regular
that's a good
Olympics.
Comparison between the two.
The regular Olympics, I'd probably have to be a minute faster even to think about being considered for like the senior national team, as it would be called. Like the two. There's a picture we have over there of these two Croatian dudes. Those guys they're monsters.
You keep talking. I'm going to change the video.
They're whatever. They have like several Olympic medals, and they're the Sinkovic twin brother. They're not twin brothers. They're brothers. The Sinkovic brothers from Croatia. They're generally considered like two of the best rowers in the world. A lot of what they do is they row. They're extremely fit. Both those guys won like 1840 for a frame of reference. So they held like 135. So their time is like 2 minutes faster than mine. But they're probably the two fastest guys on the erg, in the rowing world. There might be other guys like, some CrossFit monster, but who might be faster. But in the rowing world, those guys are considered the two fittest guys on the erg. So.
And I like where you put that picture is right below your personal certificate.
Yeah, exactly.
Motivation.
So within the Paralympic world, there's probably, let's see, like, I don't know, it probably puts me in the top. It's hard to say because a lot of people don't post scores, but maybe top 10. Something like that of all Paralympic men, probably across the world. So coach question and player question here. Is that a strategy to not posting? Because I know, like, when we play some of the Concept 2 games and things, or we've had some of the bigger, like a lot of online workout stuff where you've got like a 10-day window to hit a number, and there's strategy to it. And it's funny how, like, if you set a number, all of a sudden people see your paces and your breakdowns and your splits, it gives them more education to kind of look at how they might go after it. Whereas if you hold that number back, a lot of times you can win an event because, hey, I got a pretty good strategy for this, and we've done that. I mean, it sounds silly for people that aren't into playing workouts, but it absolutely does work, because it's like, look at how they went after. Oh boy, I should try that because look at how they did this, and they figured this thing out, and then somebody else comes along and one ups you, and if you let that out too early, you kind of hurt yourself.
Yeah,
I would. Sorry, go.
The Paralympic coaches for the U.S. have set some benchmark workouts that they are asking those who are striving for this seat to submit their scores. And so we don't submit them until the due date, and then we kind of look at everybody else. But it is good to know how you are progressing. It's good to know that your work is getting you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny, but because the coaches all have that information, and Todd's just trying to be the best he can be. In this situation, it's not a whole lot about holding back the scores.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I'd say there's two things. There's in the U.S., like Susan mentioned, we have to post scores. Like the coaches made us take, like they have like hard deadlines. For example, there was like November 1st, all the athletes had to do a 6K and submit it. So I know where I am relative to the rest of the Americans, but beyond the United States, like most of the elite athletes don't post their scores. So I have like no idea how fast the Australians are, for example, or the British, but some of them do. Mostly at competitions, like I've seen the scores, like a lot of the Italian guys, for example, have attended like they did like the British Indoor Rowing Championships, and one of the British guys did the British Indoor Rowing Championships for 2K, and some of there's like the French guys were at the World Indoor Rowing Championships last year. So I have a little bit of a feel for where some of the international guys are just at competitions, but some of the athletes don't attend any of these competitions, so you have no idea. Like the Australians, for example, are one I'd be curious, and the Canadians as well. They never like post their score, so there's only a few of the guys. Like there's one Italian guy who's really fit. Like he went 6'11", I think, so which is crazy fast.
That's 6'11" para.
Yeah, he's a Paralympic. He's PR3, same category as me. He's huge Italian. He's a huge Italian guy.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's okay. So
that's probably, honestly, it's probably like second or third fastest in the world. So without knowing, like I said, I don't know some of the scores. There's an American guy. There's one guy who I rode with in the 4-person boat back in Poznan. I think he's the fastest. I think he's the fastest para rower in the world. But I say think because I don't know I don't know what a couple of the Australians and the British guys are doing. But he'll go 6:05, which is almost fast enough to make the senior national team. So
that's that's out of control. I mean, that's people that don't understand 2K times, like they don't get how fast that is. I mean, that's so incredibly impressive break this, be close to breaking the 6 minute mark.
Break 6 minutes. Yeah, breaking 6 minutes is generally the standard. If you break 6 minutes, that's the standard to go to get invited to the senior national team. So, yeah, the thing I like to think about the erg in with rowers is that we're specialists. We're specialists. It's kind of like when I'm into track and field a lot. I like watching track and field. I know a lot of the professionals. But the times they throw it on, and I used to be a pretty good runner, like recreational runner.
Right.
The times are just mind-bogglingly fast. It's kind of like when I see like 13-minute 5K from from like Concession Bekele or Helesi, like these like Africans or even the Americans, like what's his name, Centrowich, who won the American guy who won the 1500 meter at the last Olympics. Like their times are insane, especially for somebody who, they're highly trained. Same with swimmers. If you look at like elite swimmers' times, they're specialists. Is my point,
But Todd, you're a specialist, and
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
we've been working so hard on some of these really little tiny skills that make a tiny difference, little by little, but they add up.
Yeah.
And make that 6K or that 2K, the next test, faster and better.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think one of the skills that I think has helped you, like with that last 6K, and I know will help with this next one, is your tendency is when in doubt, go stronger.
Yeah.
And I think what's been really awesome is that you're working on how to be more efficient and more relaxed,
for sure.
and how to get more into the flow of things.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ingredients for that we're working on. One is just learning how to use your body without muscles, but just kind of efficiently. And the other is kind of training that roadmap for strategy of what to do when you're getting into that last 1K that's so painful.
Yeah. I think you're right. Efficiency is a key thing. Like a lot of times, it looks like whenever we were at last year at the Olympic training camp, I was like I could produce the most watts per stroke, but my stroke is like relatively inefficient. So not to get too crazy technical about it. So
No. So on the inefficiency side, what's the shortcoming on that? Like, is it timing? Is it total? Is it stroke length? Is it the power curve?
It's the power, essentially. Power curve. Yeah.
Okay.
My power curve looks like this, as opposed to being more like that.
His power curve looks like Mount Everest. It's kind of like
And it needs to be more like
big snappy strike.
But the problem is that he's striving for a seat in a boat with another guy and 2 women. It's a mixed 4 for the para. And so what's better in a team boat is to match.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so to try to get everyone's power curve kind of on the same wavelength. And so since Todd is so strong, he takes advantage of that by spending his strength in his legs rather early.
Right.
And so what we're trying to learn is to go a little easier initially with the legs so that he can then incorporate them in the middle part so that his force curve has more area underneath it.
Yeah.
And it looks more like the Grand Canyon as far as flat on top.
It needs to be more like a clean rather than just an explosive squat.
Right.
So which is that's my sort of
if
forte
you were
in the
Tesla, weight room. You want to drive around in ludicrous mode all the time. Of
course.
And you want him to actually get to the destination with some battery left.
Maybe a little Prius.
Less Tesla, more Prius. So you've got 4 in the boat, and you're going to put. Okay, so walk me through, because I remember some of this stuff with quads and 8s.
Yeah.
Different seats in the boat have different jobs. There's the engine room. There's the
bow and the stern row pair.
And
bow and the stern pair. The stern pair typically are like your technically proficient rowers who set the rhythm because everybody can see them and follow them. In your bow seat, the people near the front of the boat, but the back, depending on your perspective, from the front of the boat, from the actual perspective of the boat, are your bow rowers, which are generally a little lighter and smaller. So, because the front of you don't want to put like your heaviest rower in the front of the boat, weighing the front of the boat down. So
not as drag efficient in the water. Okay.
And generally, like in an 8-person boat, the 4 people in the middle are called the engine room. The boat's very stable, it's very wide. They're not necessarily your technically most proficient rowers, but they're generally your stronger.
That's like Sam Locke, Peter kind of guys.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd stick. Oh, Peter would be perfect for like 4 or 5 seat.
As would Sam.
As would Sam, exactly.
Yeah, well, Sam's transplanted temporarily, I'm sure, over here. Yeah. But he's always been a freaking animal.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking about the erg, actually. One more thing. We were talking about You know, it's a couple of ways to look at this. It's funny, and I'm sure this happens in other sports too. Like breaking, if you're a dude, if you're a male, and you can break 7 minutes for 2,000 meters, that's a pretty good barometer of fitness. You know.
Yeah. General fitness.
You have general fitness, exactly. Which is the other way to think about it. We were talking about specialists is if you want to get as a woman get invited to the senior national team camp, you have to break 7 minutes too.
Right.
So just to like the flip side of that, I guess.
So is that why this kind of sidetracks a little bit, but I know that there's a culture within rowing that rowing is for rowers, and there are a few folks that do not appreciate the CrossFitters or us, what I would call functional fitness people that can step in and obliterate them on a 2K, and they get super mad about it. And I'm like, dude, put us in the water, and we're gonna flip the boat or fall over. Like, we're not rowers. It's a workout. Like, we're good at the workout, or somebody could be really good at the workout. Doesn't make them a great rower. I mean, Froning had a phenomenal 2K time on the front end of a marathon.
He did one like 6:20 or whatever.
At the on a rolling start of a marathon, it's like nobody's going to confuse him with a rower.
Yeah, for sure.
But they get super territorial about like, that's not the same. It's like, okay, like I don't get it, but I'm not a rower. So
you're a specialist in the CrossFit world. You've developed your explosiveness. And
he is for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
But the rowing thing is funny because like
they're like, oh, you're not real rowers, you're just like taking up space. There's a little bit of that like within the rowing world, but because I mean even before like functional fitness evolved, there was a phrase in the rowing world called like ergs don't float, you know. So because they're even within the rowing world, like because the erg, you know, it's a proxy for speed, but it's not exact, you know, because it doesn't take. It's the closest proxy that we have. You know, and I guess there's a little more going within the sport. Sometimes if you're in a team boat, like in an 8-person boat, it's really hard to, as opposed to say swimming, running, or doing track and field.
Right.
Like you can clearly see, you know, if you have 10 runners out there and you do a bunch of 400s, you can clearly tell who's the fastest.
Who's the
you know?
fastest? Yeah.
But in an 8-person shell, it's hard to tell who's the fit, who's really moving this boat.
Right.
So the erg becomes a measure of like for the rowers to say, okay, I'm the fastest in the boat because my 2,000 meter time on the machine is the fastest. However, that doesn't necessarily translate exactly.
Right.
So.
Well, and to your point, you could have 8 individuals who are phenomenally fast on a 2K, but if they're not able to sync up and match up, you could take a much less fit or functional team that is not as fast on the 2K and absolutely obliterate that group because they're able to sync up and actually work as a team.
And that's why we look at it in 2 ways. One is that we look at video of potential people that Todd would be in the boat with for the Tokyo and try to match his style so that we're on the same wavelength and doing similar drills. And that's why the camps are so important, so you can get together with everybody else.
Row together, exactly. That's the key.
Yeah.
So you can match up and row.
Right.
I rowed, there's this big, like I mentioned, here's a random side tangent, that's a big race called Head of the Charles. It's in Boston every October. It's a 5,000 meter race. It's like one of the bigger races in the rowing world, like, and it has a huge number of events from high school athletes to masters athletes and to Olympians to international Olympians. So, but point of the story is I rowed in like 2004. We rowed with a bunch of guys from this club here, and I was the fittest guy, but we didn't have tons of horsepower, but we've been rowing together for a couple years before we actually put the boat together.
Right.
And then we put the boat together like 4 months ahead of time, like or even more. So we spent all summer. That boat was like so technically proficient. We did really well. We finished in 3rd in our event. And contrasted to like in 2010, I rowed in the 4. This is when we went with Willamette.
Right.
So I rowed in 4, and I was the oldest guy in the boat. But so we had and everybody was about the same fitness. Like we were all really good. Like our fitness was good for the event. So, but that boat never clicked. It was we like killed my back every day at practice in that boat. Just because we never really like gelled together. We only had like 2 months together, and it just didn't work. And we think we finished in like 9th or 10th, which is okay, but we thought we had a real shot for a medal. So,
just everybody working too hard, but not together.
And not together, exactly. So
So with the current plan of having the Olympics later on this year, the plan is to be able to go to Boston where his teammates are and strive to train together with them so that the boat can get stronger and more efficient together. So that's kind of the next chapter that we're looking at, and that could be April or May, and the sooner for that the better, I think.
So the rest of your crew is in Boston?
Some of them are. There's 2 dudes. There's one guy who's in New Jersey. There's one guy who's in Vermont training right now. Those will be the 2 guys that. The one guy in New Jersey is the guy that I'm going to have to beat if I want to get in the boat. The other guy who's in Vermont is, I think, a lock. He's the guy who was saying he went 6:05. He's pretty much guaranteed a seat.
I would think so.
And then there's another at least couple guys in Boston, and then a bunch of the women are in Boston too. But a few of there's like a girl who's at Oklahoma right now, and I think there's another girl who's in, where is she, like New York or something like that. So,
and these are all P3s.
Yeah, PR3.
Okay, so
PR3.
do you know there's category 1, 2, 3, and 4? Is it right?
Just three. Just three. Just PR1,
okay.
PR2, PR3.
Okay, so what can you break down those categories?
Sure. PR1 is essentially, they had a different designation for them. They call it PR1 used to be called arms only.
Okay.
So you're in this, it's not a sliding seat, it's a fixed seat. You're strapped in at your torso.
Okay.
Your torso doesn't even swing at all, and you're just using your arms.
Okay.
Those are like, people who are like or paraplegics or something like that,
right.
typically amputees.
Okay.
PR2 used to be called arms torso. So
Okay.
it's a fixed seat still, but they are only strapped in at like their waist, so they can swing their body,
so
and they can use their
core
arms.
engagement.
Exactly.
Okay.
They just don't use their legs, essentially. PR3, I guess you would call it, like, it's a sort of general category. They used to call it legs, trunks, arms. So PR3s can include blind people, like the guy that I rode with is a single leg amputee, people with neurologic conditions, things like that. So PR3, you can use your legs, you can use your trunk, and you can use your arm. So
okay,
yeah.
So you're in a PR3 boat.
Yeah.
Presumptively, what would the other three folks? What is it? I mean, and I kind of think on the coaching side too. Is it easier to have everybody with similar? Is it easier to mix it up? Is it because you've got some unique conditions here where it's not just this guy's taller, this guy's shorter, this guy's heavier, this guy's lighter.
Yeah.
Does that even matter once you get everybody in the boat?
I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, I agree.
You get everyone into a boat, because everyone will have their individual challenges.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're all on that level and in contention for that boat, because they're able to move that boat
and produce it.
Yeah.
That's
and in fact,
really
a lot
awesome.
of these diseases are relatively invisible when you look at the person. You can't really tell what they have.
Yeah, that's good thing and bad thing sometimes. I think with PR3 is that you can ride. You have to be what's classified. You have to be like classified is the term that they use within the rowing world as being a Paralympic athlete. What they do is they put you through like a battery of tests where they like check your range of motion for all your joints. They watch you like do some squats, and they watch you run the rowing machine.
Okay.
And they give you a score. The higher the score, the more disabled you are, essentially.
Okay.
So you have to hit like a minimum score to be considered a Paralympic athlete. So I think a lot of times there are some people within the PR3 world that are pretty borderline, So,
are there certain like automatic qualifiers, like a prosthesis? Because I'm thinking like your single leg amputee.
Right. Yeah, if you're single leg, because there was 2 guys actually who were single leg amputees in our camp.
Okay.
And I think that you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to get classified. So
that would make sense.
There's a bunch of people who have like club feet and things like that. So, and it depends on the degree. There's one of the women who on the U.S. team who I rode with. She barely qualified. She had some sort of, it wasn't necessarily like a club foot, but her one of her feet is like sort of deformed, and she walks a little awkwardly. So she can't like quite do a full squat, but she's crazy fast. She's one of the fastest women in the world.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting, because a lot of people they're aware of Paralympics, they understand, but it's like when it's to your point, it's like there's a lot of people that are competing that you wouldn't have any idea what's going on,
for sure.
Especially in the boat, because once you're in the boat, you don't really see much of the person. You're just kind of seeing the top down view and the boat moving, and when you watch rowing, it's like you could have 8 different situations going on there that are wildly unique, but then at the same time it does, which is awesome because it doesn't look like anything, and you guys are still fast. I mean, I think that's
Todd's rowing, he looks incredible to me,
Yeah.
and I feel like he does not look like someone who has Parkinson's.
Yeah, that's the fun thing is like even right now you can see my tremor is kind of going crazy because I'm a little jacked up, but
just so excited.
Yeah, I mean, this whole process makes you a little nervous, but luckily, like when I'm rowing, especially on the water, I don't really. I mean, there's like a couple little subtle things that Susan would notice, but for the general public, like if I rode by in my single, you probably wouldn't notice any. You'd be like,
Right.
"Oh, that guy's just cruising along." So
I know initially too, your actual physical balance in the boat was that because of the tremors themselves, or was it kind of your internal level was being impacted? Where you get, it's like how you get like fully impacted, like an earache, or and you kind of lose your ability to kind of stabilize.
Yeah.
Was it more?
I'd say it's
was
more
it more
like
internal, or was it the physical shaking that you had to?
I think it's hard to say. Because I mean, I have this tremor. I also have my whole left side doesn't really function very well, or functions less well. It's like my whole left side, my left arm, my left hand, my left foot,
Right.
my left leg doesn't function as well. My left hip, as well as my right side. And I think that's the thing that messes with my balance, is that my whole left side just is funky.
The proprioception is completely different than the right.
It's like, it's hard to describe. It almost just feels like it won't do what I think it should, like the signals that my brain is telling my right side to do are the same that it's telling my left side to do, but it's not doing it on the left side.
It's like interference in there. It's just okay.
So when that messes with my rowing. I think that's what messes with my balance on the boat, on the water, more than anything. So
And what I see when I'm out there coaching you is that I think that your natural balance was like leaning to starboard before.
Yeah, now I lean to port. Now I lean the other way.
Starboard, for those at home that aren't boat people, is left.
From the perspective of the rower, starboard is left.
Yeah.
It's the other, rowers face backwards, so
Right.
it's the right side of the boat.
Right.
If you're from the perspective of the boat.
Correct. I got to stop saying right.
Yeah. From the rower's perspective, starboard is on your left. Exactly.
So that's interesting. So I mean, you would have said that he probably would have defaulted to his left-hand side beforehand, and now he's had to
Default to my right side.
Invert that and default to your right.
Yeah, I kind of lean up to my right a little bit just because I find like it's harder to, I can't, even I notice this on the stationary bike. I've been kind of trying to force myself to lean to my left. Like I just kind of lean to the right because I think this like easier for me to pivot off my right sit bone.
Yeah.
And I have more coordination in my hip. So.
Okay. So when you're under load in the boat.
Yeah.
Because it's way different than on the erg. Because on the erg, I remember too, there's not the same kind of consistent resistance in the handles. The handle, the grip, everything's so different. Is it easier for you to stabilize on the boat now than it is to stabilize on the Concept 2?
Well, I would say I feel much more technically proficient than I was before. That's probably more just a matter of having like consistent coaching and just like sheer amount of volume I've spent on the water. So like my technical approach I feel my technical abilities improved significantly too since we started in the last year or so.
Oh yeah, you have worked so hard.
Yeah.
You've worked so hard, and I think you've had to work 5 times harder than someone else who in your position, just because your sense of balance, your sense of everything has kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're reintroducing yourself to this new body.
Yeah, it does. I mean, to go back to the whole Paralympic thing too, sometimes I did actually a little research a couple weeks ago. As far as I can tell, there's definitely one person who rode at the Paralympics who had Parkinson's, and there's potentially another American table tennis player. But as far as I can tell, those are the only 2 people who've ever competed with Parkinson's at the Paralympics. And I guess my point is, like, sometimes when I look at like my fellow teammates, obviously like the dude who's missing a leg, clearly he's got something going on, but like the people who have like club feet and things like that, like, okay, it's clear that they have something that's impacted, but not to make a sob story, but I feel like my situation is a little more difficult than theirs. So,
well, it's not a sob story; it's just a fact.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got a nervous system that's attacking itself on one half of your body, and with a whole different nervous system that's functioning normally, more or less, on the other side of the body. It's the constant fighting between the two.
Constantly changing. But the thing is that you have really learned how to constantly adapt. I think that's one of the strong suits in the last year and a half of working with you, is that you have learned skills and tools of what to do when you feel this, you do this.
For sure.
So, and we've talked about this, a few times, but one of the big things that came with that, the diagnosis and kind of just going after this thing full speed ahead and going into Todd attack mode, diet. Supplements, nutrition, right?
Sure.
And I know you made a lot of changes and implemented a lot of different I don't even like saying like alternative strategies, but it's like just
I do all kinds of stuff.
Unique strategies, whereas a lot of people that maybe aren't as in tune with their body and weren't necessarily as fit beforehand might not have thought to, hey, I know myself really well and I know how my body should do XYZ, and now it's doing CBQ versus CBD. But what did you start experimenting with, that you're putting in your mouth and in your water and in your food, to get a little bit of this where, hey, if I, because like Pete's a good example of this, right?
Yeah.
So, and not for anything other than just, I haven't, he has always had back inflammation, working as a crap,
And he changed his diet all around, right?
Yeah, he went full keto, not just to get, I want to get super fit, but he cut the sugar on the boat because he was reading. He's like, oh, I've heard that sugar can be inflammatory, and the way they eat on the boat, it's not great because it's packing calories in.
Yeah.
Because you only get a 2-hour window and 24 to shove food in your face because you're working the rest of it, and that means high fat, high sugar, high protein.
Sure.
And when he went keto, he lost some weight, but the biggest thing was he was like, my back hasn't felt this good in 30 years.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And the inflammation that came from the sugar went away, and it wasn't anything like aesthetic for him. It was more just, hey, and he cut like 15 pounds alone just doing that because he pulled the sugar out and his body felt better. Yeah. And he was responding better. He was recovering faster because he just realized like, oh, I guess I'm considered more sensitive to sugar than I thought. And so on your end, digging into this, what are some of the tricks or I guess food hacks that you found that can, if either side, hey, if I eat this, I know tomorrow's going to be a little bit rougher day, but I really want that beer or whatever, or if I don't eat this certain thing, I get a little more stability.
I don't know. I guess I would say from big picture, I do a lot of things I do like a million things actually, if you really want to get into it, as far as like supplementation and alternative lifestyle things. And my diet is good, I would say. I don't necessarily subscribe to a particular diet. I mean, I would call it like semi-paleo if I had to describe it. Okay. My wife, mostly a function of what Heather does too. So my wife's gluten intolerant. She's dairy, lactose intolerant. She can't eat soy. She can't eat like garlic. So she has a lot of food allergies. And we make most of our meals at home, like especially now during COVID.
Especially now.
Yeah, like I'd say, out of 21 meals in a week, 19 of them are at home. So anyway, so most of them I would call like semi-paleo. But typically our dinners are like sweet potatoes, some roast chicken, and like some roast broccoli or something like that. So my diet's pretty clean on the whole. My typical diet, like I typically have like overnight oats for breakfast, and then a whole bunch of water, and then maybe a cup of coffee, and then for lunch lunch can be a hodgepodge because leftovers, or I've been finding like my new favorite snack for lunch is like peanut butter and jelly, like a good piece of bread, like some Dave's Killer bread with some peanut butter, some honey. I can eat that all day. I guess my point is like my diet is on the whole pretty clean, right? But I do expend a ton of calories, so there is a little bit of junk in there too. Like last night I had a couple handfuls of the Scandinavian swimmers from Trader Joe's. You know what those are. Nice. So I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, so which is fine. Like 90% of my diet's pretty clean, but there's, like I said, if I'm taking down probably 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day. Okay. So I have a little leeway to eat some,
Yeah, you can burn it.
Eat like a cookie at night, or a whole sleeve of cookies or whatever. So that's what I just try to avoid, is eating a whole sleeve.
Is one serving. That says it right on the box.
As far as other things, so I take like, I don't know, it gets a little annoying sometimes, but like 10 different supplements, from like glutathione, which I think is like, that seems to be helpful, to vitamin E, to turmeric, to curcumin, like all these things. Because I have a naturopath that I see, and so she kind of has me on like a bunch of different supplements. And then I do all kinds of other stuff too. Like I've been really getting into, I have an infrared sauna in my house, just like a little one. So I sit in that quite a bit. Like I've read some research that it helps with endurance performance. Okay. So I've been spending like 15 minutes a day in that thing. So I also have a hyperbaric chamber in my house, which is kind of unusual. Okay. So I try to get in there like 3-4 times a week, and then you just like take a nap in there. So yeah, I do all kinds of random things. So
yeah. And that, I mean, being able to recover, that's a huge key for training, because I mean, big part of the
for sure,
the volume of training that you have to do, you've got to be able, I mean, you also have to spend more energy on food recovery and physical just rest, so that you're sleeping enough, or even if you're not sleeping, if you're in the sauna. I sleep a ton.
Yeah, exactly.
And also addressing timing of when you eat something, and particularly when you're approaching a big test. Like a 2K or 6K, kind of paying attention to what you're doing that week prior.
Yeah, for sure.
Taking notes so that you can learn for next time if something's good or bad for performance.
Right. And I mean, the journaling. And,
I track down. Yeah, exactly. I have like, well, the coaches, we have I have a software program that tracks all of our workouts and all of our details. And then I just have my own little journal too. So there's something I was going to mention, but I mean, I do have a really nice setup, so I sleep a lot. Meaning my lifestyle is like I don't have I'm not really I mean, this is my job right now,
Right.
so
Yeah.
this allows me some freedom.
Professional athlete right now.
Yeah, which is crazy. But I was going to say the challenge. Some of this is a challenge that the other thing I find that like I really feel as though it's a challenge, but it's also something. It's like two things here. Let me see where I'm going with this. Is that I'm 46. Okay, so I'm not 25 anymore.
Right.
So I don't have the recovery capacity that I used to have when I was 24. I also have, so I feel like I have to brute force it a little bit in my body to, I feel like I almost have to do more work to keep up with the people who are younger than me. So there's like that aspect. I really have to push the envelope of what my body can handle.
Right.
And I'm older, so then I have to make sure I can recover. So that's, I find the challenge, because there are a lot of days where, I mean, I'll do 2 hours or so on the rower and the bike and then lift some weights, and then the next morning I'm just like trash,
Yeah.
so when I'm walking up the stairs. So
Doesn't quite feel like it did when you were 25, 26.
yeah, so
because
I have to be smart about that.
Yeah. So on the non-rowing side, and your strength training, right?
Yeah.
The standard kind of work with squats, deadlifts. What's been what's the secret sauce? Because I know that you don't want to get too heavy. This is a fascinating thing for me because you can be not too heavy for a boat, but it's power to weight ratio, right?
Yeah, they're absolutely.
If you have
100%.
a super fast boat and you're 5 pounds lighter, you're going to be that much faster in the water than the boat that might be the same speed at 5 pounds heavier.
No doubt. If you have two guys who both are going 620 on the ergometer, but one of them weighs 230 and one of them weighs 185.
You're taking the 185.
Yeah, that's like I mean, that's an extreme example,
Sure.
but yeah. So yeah, I mean,
I think a lot of your training is kind of functional movement.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
They may not be like big weights, but
Yeah.
they're using an elastic band and working on balance,
Yeah.
stretching, equalizing all the smaller muscles, in addition to the heavier weightlifting.
exactly. I mean, I kind of dumbed it down. So I'm in the weight room typically 3 days a week is pretty standard in my garage, which is
right.
But I made it easy for myself. I just bought. There's a woman and a guy who live in Boston. This couple who the woman is an Olympian. She rowed in the 2012 Olympics, and her husband was a rower as well. And so they just have they sort of do. I just paid a subscription fee to them, and they give you the program. So it's called Row Fishing, but it's good. It's kind of like what I kind of think of it as like functional fitness with rowers specifically designed in mind.
Okay.
So 1 day a week will be, it's always like the workouts kind of fall into the same, the strength workouts. There's like 15 minutes of like warm up and mobility. They're generally pretty thorough and long, which is great. And then there's like 3 components to the weight workout. There's generally, it depends on the day too. Like Tuesdays are generally like your traditional strength workout. So it'll be like some deadlifts or some back squats. And then it will be like some single leg stuff. And then it'll be like some bench press and some pull-ups, something like that. So
okay.
And then the next day, like as the week goes on, it becomes more, I guess you would say like circuit. It'll be more like Thursday might just be all single leg stuff and then like a small AMRAP. And then one of the days will just be like a short warm up and then like a long AMRAP. So
do you find your body holding up better and not getting so broken down, comparative to like when you train when you were in college?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, but back when I was in college, I never felt tired. So.
Well, right. In college, and of course, 20 years ago plus, fitness training, physical lifting, all was very different mindset.
Oh yeah, it was more traditional. We're just going to do 4 sets of squats, 4 sets of bench, 4 sets of deadlift, 4 sets of leg press. So,
do you feel this works better, and do you think this would have worked better for you back then with that body?
I think it would have at some level. The one thing I like about a lot of these, I use my judgment a lot of times and tailor things around how I'm feeling that day. For example, if there's like a very leg intensive AMRAP and I've just done like 20,000 meters of rowing, I might tweak the exercises. Like I don't need necessarily more cardio, because like if I've just done 2 hours of rowing, like I've got enough cardio to last me for the day.
Yeah.
So I'll tailor it a little bit
for some of us.
So I'll tailor it a little bit, but yeah, certainly.
You're training what, 4 hours a day, 5?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to figure out on my actual training log. I generally get like 15 hours per week, but that doesn't include a lot of times like warm ups, like late afternoon stretching sessions. So. It's probably like 20 hours a week cumulatively. So.
Okay.
And something too that I've been trying to encourage you with the warm up is to do exercises that are specific to the rowing, so that you kind of warm up your nervous system and move and warm up how things feel. So that's one way that we also use like the rowing machine is this is how it should feel for you to sit balanced in the boat. This is how you should feel when you're reaching out.
Okay. So things like kettlebell swings, good mornings, stuff like that.
I love the good mornings. And so
just
I do those all the time.
Get that posterior chain fired up before you get on the, because a lot of people make the mistake, and we talk about this, you know, it's kind of the running joke or first question, you know, is like, is rowing a pushing or a pulling sport, you know, and a lot of people are like, oh, you're pulling, right? It's like, right, you've obviously not done much, you know, because they don't realize how it's a push, it's all pushing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, when we talk with, you know, the especially the kids and the, you know, when you get into it, it's like anything else. You've got a unidirectional sport. You're going one direction, so your posterior chain gets fired up.
You know,
absolutely. But then you start building in injuries because you're not in balance. You know, and how do you keep, you know, so I mean, the number one thing every rower hates doing is a chest workout. You know, it's like,
for sure.
I don't want to do push-up. Why am I doing this? I mean,
even though it's like the most complimentary probably exercise.
Right.
Yeah, like a push-up is that. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was telling this one kid I was working with. Like, do more push-ups, man. It's like, it's old school core work basically. And it's totally, you know, complementary to the rowing stroke. So
it's a unique sport because, I mean, a lot of people look at it, oh, it's impact free, it's not going to hurt your body. It's like, oh no, rowers are, you know, there's a lot of damage that can happen. It's a volume play, right?
Exactly.
It's
like swimming and cycling are low impact, but you know, if you're swimming 15 hours a week, you know, you're going to put yourself in a disadvantage, in a position where you might get, you know, blow out your shoulder or something like that. You know?
And with rowers, it's usually low back. Sometimes knees, but that's kind of I haven't heard too many people with
I've been having these like little rib injuries of the two that I've been getting. So
like intercostal strain type stuff.
Things like that. Exactly. So
that's pretty typical for rowers.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Those
are the weakest part in your body.
Exactly. So
so building that structure so it's as balanced as possible to be to be in that boat. I mean, it all makes logical sense until you start looking at like I don't know how you do it. I really don't. I mean, just in general, like the boat is, you guys move so fast in the water. The biggest thing too that it seems to have taken like the 2K times keep going down, right?
Yeah,
every time somebody tests, there's a new. I mean, almost every year there's a new record.
The world record has been broken the last couple of years.
The last was he was like 17. Like with no shit. I mean, the one kid did it.
Isaiah Harrison?
Yeah.
That kid's crazy fast. Yeah.
It's insane.
Even I was thinking one of Sam Locke's teammate broke the world record last winter.
Yeah.
But actually that world record stood for a while, but he broke it, you know. So.
But they just keep getting clipped off. Yeah. And then I look at the water and the boats are just faster. You know, we were looking at the boats downstairs and it's like, I mean, you got boats that are, you know, cost more than a car that weigh less than my backpack. I mean, it's amazing the amount of tech, you know. I mean, you guys have both been in the game long enough. I mean, I vaguely remember when, you know, the material, you know, the synthetic materials became the thing, right? And the times just got faster and faster and faster because the boats are just cutting through the water so much quicker.
Yeah.
Where does that land on the Paralympic side with, you know, because I mean, my mind would be like, cool, if I'm going to try and make this as an even playing field, everybody gets the same boat, same oars.
Yeah, well, they do a little. Yeah. There's some standardization. You have to there are even like cycling has there. You can't have certain bike types, but there's the same thing with the rowing world. There's a few like standardization pieces. Like the boats have a minimum weight, so you can't make a boat. For example, I think like a single has to be the FISA. FISA is the governing body of rowing in the world internationally. I think the FISA minimum is like 27 pounds for a single, so you can't make like a 3-pound single that just disintegrates after your race, but it's super light. So that's like one thing they do. And the rigger styles, like the riggers have to be mounted on the boat. The riggers can't slide around. Like there used to be these sliding riggers, and so there are a few sort of equipment pieces standardization. I think the one thing that's interesting, kind of going back to what you're saying, is that there are some guys within the rowing world who have been monsters on the erg, who have not necessarily always like panned out on the water. So like there's a guy who's still really pretty competitive. I don't know how to speak. Dude's guy, and I'm sure he'd crush me on the water too. His guy's named Graham Ben, his British guy. But he, you know, he got started. I think he came from rowing from like a rugby background. He started rowing like later in life, like his early 30s maybe. So, but he was going, you know, 5:40 for a while, like stupid fast time. He was like, you know, the fastest guy in the world on the erg for a while. But, you know, it was harder for him to train. He did pretty well as a rower. He got to sort of the high club level, you know, national level in Britain, but never cracked onto the Olympic team or anything like that. So, and there's a couple other guys. Like there's this Finnish dude I found on who rows on the Finnish national rowing team. He's a monster. But I watched him row. It's like not bad, but I mean, I think for a lot of like the Europeans, they start sculling. They start with 2 oars in the one-person boat when they're really young. Just kind of like almost like swimming or any other like technical sport. They start rowing, when they're 12,
Right.
as opposed to the United States where most people don't start. Some people might be able to start at 12. Most people probably start rowing when they're 14, 16,
Maybe a
17,
club team
18.
in high school or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and
That's the advantage of being here in Portland, though, is that you could
for
be
sure.
on the water.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of the, I mean, that's one of the beauties is that.
The rowing scene here is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unique. I mean, we were even talking about our backdrop here. It's always flat in this specific
Yeah,
area.
this body of water is awesome. Yeah.
So it's great for
It's
training.
good to be able to row. Yeah, exactly. Because as nice as the erg is, it doesn't give you all the skills that you need to make the boat actually go fast.
Yeah.
So it gets you like a third of the way there. There's like 3 components to being a good rower. I always say, like you need to have the physical capability, you need to have the technical proficiency, and then you need to have like some mental toughness, whatever the mental capacity. So.
Right.
So the erg gives you like 30% of the game, It may be a little more because you can do some basic technical work on the rowing machine, like the body sequencing,
Sure.
but you don't have any sense of the balance or like how to maneuver the oar properly. So
Yeah. No, I told him before I'm not getting in a boat unless he's in the boat with me
Yeah.
because I know I know how to row like a kayak. It ain't the same thing.
Let's
it's like,
do this.
seriously, I think we need to do
Mobile
it. Yeah.
podcast. I'll just
We have
pretty sure I have some waterproof cans. We can do that.
Yeah.
we have at
Nice.
least 1 or 2 trainers here, meaning they look like just like bathtubs with oarlock. With
Perfect.
oarlock. I would say they're virtually unflippable, but I've seen people flip them, even though I didn't think it was possible. But,
Challenge
yeah.
accepted.
So, yeah, if you ever want to come down, that'd be fun actually.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
We'll tie a rope on you so you don't get too far away.
We'll get like Paul and Leo and all the big
Yeah.
body guys, and we'll just come down and like try to not fall in the water more than once.
Yeah.
No, the technical side, the gear. I mean, because the
Yeah.
gear is, I geek out on equipment and things like that. But you hit the nail on the head with that last one. The third component is the mental toughness side. We've had kids and coaching side, and I've seen adults do it too, where it's like they put so much pressure on themselves to perform at a certain speed or pace because they have to hit a 2K number for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, sure.
And
I'm thinking of Lauren here.
oh, she
Lauren.
is my perfect case example of
She's a great. She's
who
gonna
to
be
do
good.
it just like.
Yeah.
And but then there are others that, like, even if it's not a good set for her, she won't quit.
Yeah.
She won't get off. It might not be pretty, but she'll fight it all the way through.
Yeah.
And then we've seen some of the other side that it's like they get 1,000 in and they're a little uncomfortable and they tap out. And it's
Yeah.
like, what? Get your ass back on that rower. I
Yeah,
don't
for
care
sure.
if it takes you 15 minutes. Do not get off again.
Yeah.
Like how, what a wildly different mindset between
Yeah.
someone who, it's going to suck no matter what, right?
Yeah.
A 640 2K or a 630, they're both going to suck.
Yeah.
Like
the
it's
marginal difference between the two. Yeah. Exactly.
You feel like if
Yeah.
you're really pushing it, and,
Yeah.
and I was kind of joking, but like the last time I did a 2K for time, like it was like 3 weeks before I felt like,
Yeah.
of course with all my stuff going on, it's a little bit different, but I was like, no, I don't want to feel like this again.
Yeah.
Like I don't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to get to that next step or that next benchmark, it's like,
Yeah.
I know I got to do that again, and that's not a fun thing for me.
Yeah.
Plus the recovery time. It's like, if you're like 3-4 weeks beat up afterward,
Yeah,
just
for
because
sure.
of the strain, it's like, that's a different animal. So, and ironically, of all things, I've done more 10Ks for time in the last 2 years than I
Nice.
have 2Ks for
Yeah.
time, and I blame
Well,
you
Actually,
because there's way more pacing in that.
Yeah, exactly. 10K doesn't. You just kind of
It hurts different.
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
like you can kind of
You can
chip
cruise.
away.
You can cruise at a moderately hard pace for a
Right.
long time.
Yes, exactly.
For say 25 minutes, and then it only gets bad for maybe the last 6 minutes or so.
Right.
Whatever.
As opposed to
then
just
I think there's like a misnomer too that people think that if you're on the Olympic team or if you're training so hard that it doesn't hurt as much.
No.
No.
The only
But
thing
it
that changes.
actually-
The only thing that really changes is the speed, basically.
Right.
So
Right.
It's like
yeah.
it hurts
Yeah.
no matter what.
And that's what I try to explain to, especially kids when they're starting
Yeah.
out is like, hey, this is going to suck no matter what. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you just like at least have a better time at the end to be proud of
Yeah.
as opposed to like, you're going to, if you bail, puke on the rower. I don't care, but don't stop. Don't quit. And then, but then you get those unicorns like Lauren, who is just
Yeah.
like, dude, she's wired like
Yeah.
something else. It's mind-boggling to me that because when she came in at 13
Yeah, she used to be at LO when I was there. Now she's at ORU with plumbing.
Oh, okay.
So
and
she's 15. How old is she?
I think she's 15 now. She might
Yeah.
be getting close to 16, but like her times when she came in
She's good.
13, 14,
Yeah.
and that's why we got along super well because I told she would come down and row and I'd sit down and she was a low rate rower like 26s.
Yeah. It
Which
seems
is
like
great
she's-
for me because that's
seems
like
she's figuring that aspect
she's
out of it
figuring
now,
that
so.
aspect out a lot too.
She
and
won like what'd she pull, like 730 or something recently?
Yeah, I think she's under 730.
Yeah, so
And-
she's young and she's under 730.
Yeah.
So
and,
she's like,
I mean, we did one over
she's gonna
Zoom during
get recruited heavily.
Yeah, you know, but what she'd do is she'd come in and we'd row together with nobody else around, none of the other hoopla and stuff of like the boathouse. And it was great for me because I could sit and pace with her just because that was a low rate for me and that matches me pretty well. And she's taller, you know?
Yeah.
And when things transitioned, she had a new coach and everything. I had to explain to her coach, I'm like, hey, I'm not teaching her how to row. I'm not teaching her how to do a damn thing. I'm just helping her get better at taking this test and understanding that, you know, hey, she needs to hit these numbers, and I've just got a way that kind of works better for her, and it's a different environment. She's able to kind of sit down and just go through some things, and you know, and then I try to keep it light, but we do it with her, right? And so it's like she's not just sitting on a stage, no pun intended, with the, you know, being solo on the rower. But then she went and did, you know, the different regattas and things like that, and now she's built that mindset of like, okay, I know how to do this now, and it's not so scary because she's taken the test so many times that it's not a thing anymore. It's just strategy, you know. It's like, and even the last time, because every time she did it, I'd send you pictures or a video of it. And she's always faster. Every time she sits down, she PRs it because she's getting better every time. But she's getting better at taking the test, i.e., knowing herself better to like, okay, I can push here, I can do this, I can do. We did one on Zoom during the lockdown. Oh, really? And it wasn't as effective, you know. She didn't like it as much, but we still got it done because we just did it. And she's a robot. Like, I don't know how awesome. She just plugs herself in and she just keeps getting faster and keeps going and not quitting. And she gets off and she feels terrible, but she feels better about having a faster time feeling terrible than a lot of her peer group, which have, you know, they check out and they don't understand why she keeps getting faster and they don't. And it's like, well, it's not because they're so far apart in their strength. It's just her mental fitness is
mental fitness
beyond her age.
Huge determining factor when you get to the final stage of the Olympics. So.
For sure. We do one thing that Lauren does, actually. One thing that's good that I like about this club here is that the members, a lot of them, I mean, Susan's here and she lives right nearby, but a lot of the guys who are just like used to train with have been super helpful. They'll come down pretty much anytime I need like a training partner, somebody will be here, at least one person, which is great, especially on the erg. Like, I had like these guys who, you know, they got lives and jobs, you know, but they'll come down and you know, I'll tell them what the workout is, and they're like, all right, if you need somebody to row alongside you, I'll do it.
Oh, that's my favorite workout. It's not in the water, just to be clear.
Yeah, just like we used to do. Just like we used to do, exactly. So, you know, in the last 6K, I think they tag teamed it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like one person did
because nobody wants to do that.
They were one dude is on that one machine, the other on the here. So it's like, look, I just need you to row at 29 strokes a minute for 10 minutes. I don't care what your pace is.
Just pace me out.
Exactly. Well, Peter did one with me too, actually. So the one of the 6Ks last fall, Peter was my pace rabbit. So I was like, look, just row 29, 30 strokes a minute for these next. You can do it as fast. I think he did a 6K or whatever. But
and I'm sure his time was phenomenal because he can't not sit down and just get after it. But it's funny how that like kind of autonomic response goes to where it's like, if I can just like, so Lauren a lot of times we'll row it blind, or I'll take her monitor off of her thing and put, because I need to know where she's, you know, or we've done that before where it's like the kids can't see their or the adults can't see their pace and they don't get it in their head about like, oh my god, it's like but where she is more comfortable on the water because there's no clock in front of her and it's just she sinks in and
rowing
goes.
In the water is a whole different matter, you know.
She's so much faster on the water.
Of course,
it's crazy.
That's what pretty much most people say is that, you know, on the water you get all this like kinesthetic feedback. You have all the competition. You know, you don't have this number staring you directly in the face. The erg is a challenge. You know,
erg is like that mental discipline.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a mind test.
It's a total mind. Like, and I don't know on your, you know, on the. Because you're a professional rowing coach. I just play one on television sometimes in the gym during a workout. But that being able to hone that mindset to where, you know, something's going to happen, you know, and you just said it too, is like in those last few days or the various different parts of an event at the Olympics, the mindset, you know, who's going where and how deep and where does it fall apart. And, you know, I mean, since you've been in that game for a while, what do you see as the spot? She's so funny. She's like, I want a microphone.
No, I'm laughing at Susan because we worked on this a lot, actually.
Well, where does it fall apart? I mean, because it doesn't translate on TV. You just, you know, it's like, oh, their time is shorter. It's like, oh man, there's so much that happened there that if you were in person or you understand what's going on.
There's a million variables. I mean, and anything can happen. So a lot of it is you trying to learn how to prepare for anything to happen and not being able to be pushed off your game because it's windy or because things have been delayed a day. but to practice. You really got to
Right.
practice. You have
Yeah.
to go through each scenario. And just like this last test that Todd did with the 6K and the 1,000 meters was where it got hard. And that's where he had to really lock into this plan that he had
Yeah.
of focus.
Exactly.
Trust the plan.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. Like we worked on a lot about this fall as far as like preparing for the test, because there's testing like once a month. I would have to do a test basically on the rowing machine of whatever distance, 2K or 6K. So, a couple weeks beforehand, we were doing like specific workouts. I mean, I think the thing that I think personally works for me the best is like if I have workouts before the last 6K, for example, we did like 2 weeks before that or a week before that, I did this workout like 5-minute pieces, and I don't know what happened. It was like magical day, like the stars and moon, the sun and stars and moon were all aligned, and I absolutely crushed it. So the whole week leading to the 6K, I was just like, I'm ready for this. Look at this.
Yeah.
I just like kept thinking about that workout, and we had a race plan and everything too, which was awesome. But like just doing the workouts gave me the confidence and the preparation. Obviously, the physical preparation can't like get around that.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you've done like the work and then have that gives you I think that's probably the most important thing for me is like just telling myself like I know I can do X speed no matter what. I know I can do like hold 144 for 20 minutes, whatever it is. And so
Collective audience just threw up in their mouth
Yeah.
at a sub
It's
7
like,
2K
wow.
for 20 minutes.
and then you have a race plan, but which makes it easier because on the day or the couple days before the test, the day before the test I always find is the worst day because you're like not doing much, you're trying to rest up, but the whole day you're thinking, oh God, I got this thing looming in front of me. So
Yeah.
but if you can just keep coming back like to the in the morning before the test, you're like, I'm pretty nervous, and I think most rowers are pretty freaked out a little bit, but so you have to be able to have like positive mental dialogue in
Right.
order to deal with all the demons in your head,
And
Yeah.
channeling that energy, because that's a healthy energy, and you want
for
to
sure,
embrace
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
You don't want to ignore it or fight it.
Well, I translate it with, because we got some of the big football kind of kids and stuff. And, the one of the things that those, especially the big guys like Ryan that are most proud of, they've got a 500 plus pound deadlift and squat and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they've all gone sub 7 2K on the rower and the skier.
Wow.
And as proud as they are of their big heavy lifts, they're more proud of that because they know that that's it. You can get jacked up for one rep relatively easily, right?
Yeah.
To get jacked up for 1
2,000
2K
meters, yeah,
is not the
exactly.
easiest thing to do. It's just a total different
Yeah.
animal.
It's a horrible animal.
It's a terrible, but
scary
to the
beast.
point of like, you've got all that time going in, and you're trying to, setting a world record wasn't the goal, but you got a pace and you got a time,
Yeah,
and
for
you
sure.
want it, you want a PR, you want to at least
Exactly.
have a marked improvement, even if it's in certain sections, then back
Yeah.
off on the others. But I always equate it to surfing. It's like you want to catch that wave and ride that wave as long as you can, but sometimes the wave just falls out from under you.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to just ride it out as long as it goes. Sometimes it's a great one, sometimes it's not. And, I if you're able to ebb and flow with that, I
Sure.
would think, especially even, at the Paralympic Games and everything else, it's going to make at least a more positive experience. You're
Yeah.
going to feel good about your effort because maybe the wind maybe during your heats you had a huge headwind.
Yeah.
And weather impacted, or I can't imagine there's much current in the water because that would not make sense for stabilizing a race.
Most races where don't have a ton of current.
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, it's like sometimes shit just happens. And
Oh,
you- and you-
100%, especially on the water. Like, all kinds of crazy stuff can happen.
Remember
so.
the Rio Olympics and the heats?
Oh,
They were
yeah.
like surfing.
right?
Yeah,
was
it was pretty
insane.
rough there. The body
Forgot
water
about
there, the
that, yeah.
Lago. So
Yeah, and I know for those people, that are at that level, that's got to be devastating,
Yeah.
But then you see somebody especially like you, it's like if you go 100% and it doesn't go
Yeah.
your way, you don't have any regret about that.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we-
as long as if you feel like you gave it a good go, basically, that
Yeah.
you worked, to your maximum capacity and you rode as best you can. So
yeah,
then you're pretty happy with it.
the result will take care of itself.
Here's a random tangent, but this made me feel better. There's a woman who died, this Canadian woman. She was pretty famous. Her name's Kathleen Heddle. She won at least 2 gold medals. How many? Did she win 3?
Maybe more, yeah.
They won. Oh, because they
Silver.
won 2 at 2 Olympics. So she
Right.
won 4 medals, at least 4 medals in 2 Olympics. Anyway, so she was, one of the better like female rowers back in the early 90s, late 80s, whatever. So, but here's the point of the story. They were monsters. Her and her partner dominated everything. So, but she said she experienced. I was like reading about her. So she said she experienced extreme anxiety before her races. So I was like, oh, it almost gave me a little comfort, you know.
Yeah.
So, like this woman who's probably one of the best female oarsmen for like 4 years. So, like freaked out before every race, So
Yeah.
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 It's got to be.
It's part of the game, and
Yeah.
it's part of the whole thing. It's like dealing with that last 1,000 meters, dealing with the day before, learning
Yeah.
how to orchestrate yourself through all these challenges.
Yeah, and I mean, as a coach, I got to think that if you can, you kind of, kick them out of the nest. Once they get going, it goes, right.
Yeah.
I would assume that the lead up for everybody is probably the most difficult part. The actual execution of the race, as much as you can help manipulate coaching
Oh yeah.
wise.
Once
That's
you get
kind of the easy part.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of it too for me when I'm coaching Todd is like, you've done this before, so making
Yeah.
sure that he has done every aspect
Right.
that we're training.
The tools and the skill set are there.
Yeah, you've dealt with this before. Let's do
Yeah.
it again. We're just putting all these pieces together for race day.
So, Boston, presumptively.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
with
Sometime, whether
at
it's
some
April,
point in
May, or
time
June.
to
Yeah, exactly.
quarantine, train, and go. And
Yeah.
then Tokyo, assuming nothing changes,
Yeah.
is on for August.
Yeah, it's the beginning of August.
Okay.
This summer is going to be a little complicated depending on, there's like 3 plans. I guess you would say plan A, B, and C. Plan A is to all of them involve going to Boston, going to the selection camp, and then plan A is to hopefully, earn a seat in the 4 that goes to Tokyo. That'd be great. That's
Yeah.
plan A. That makes life easy. That's like paid trip to Tokyo, possible medal. And the reality, not to like, the American PR 3-4, they finished second to the last World Championships. They finished second to the last Olympics. Like, they're one of the dominant boats. If you make the boat, there's probably a pretty good chance you're going to win a Paralympic medal. So
Yeah.
the challenge is just getting into the boat. So,
Yeah.
okay, so that's plan A. Plan B, there's also what's called there's also a World Championships as well.
Right.
And so like the 2-person event that I raced in will be raced at the World Championships. So, and there's also a 4 race there. So, if I don't make it into the Tokyo 4, then you have to go to a trial in New Jersey and win the trial for the pair.
Okay.
Potentially go to World Championships, which is in Shanghai in like, I want to say it's like October. Yeah, something like
Okay.
that, late October. So that's plan B. And then plan C is, you don't make anything. You need to go home after
Well,
you pack your stuff and you go home.
I
So-
highly doubt Plan C is in the mix, knowing you, and
Yeah.
especially last few years. But it sounds like either way, Southeast Asia is on your map here for the
Yeah,
next.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Obviously, like, it would be a dream to go to Tokyo, but if that doesn't happen, I can go to Shanghai. That would still be pretty cool. So
It'll be super exciting.
Yeah.
Everybody's rooting for you, obviously.
thanks. All right,
Yeah.
I'll have to make a trip out one of these
Oh,
days.
yeah.
Then.
No, for sure. You've been highly missed, and everybody asks all the time,
Yeah.
and of course stalks you on Instagram. And
That's funny. Yeah.
we love it. Awesome, guys. This is awesome.
Well, Jake, thanks.
Thanks,
This has
Jake.
been incredible to take some time and just
Yeah.
chat.
No,
Yeah.
good excuse to catch up. Haven't been able to see. You've been busy. You're an important person now. You're rowing all the time. And
Yeah.
on the water. It's like,
Yeah.
where's Toddy's on the water? Where's Toddy's flying to, Europe?
Yeah.
You're a big deal.
I mean, I'm trying not to lose sight of the big picture. I've been like, I'm busting my ass.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Crushing
so
it. Love it. Awesome.
that's my goal. Like I said, I don't feel like I have a ton of margin for error, so I gotta put the
Do it
pedal.
now.
Use another cliche, but put the pedal to the metal. So
Absolutely.
so-
Drive it like you stole it and wait till the wheels fall off.
Yeah. So.
So love it. Awesome. Thanks, guys.